I've been playing Minecraft for a very long time, and nearly as long uploading videos to YouTube. That's right, nearly 1,300 videos and going strong. Just recently, I crossed the 100,000 subscriber milestone on YouTube, and I thought it would be a great time to do a bit of a channel retrospective on my 100 best builds. Here's your job. Watch the video, and when you see a build that is rated way too high or way too low, I want you to leave that in comments. I am very, very curious to where you would rate my builds. All right, let's get going right now. I guess this is kind of an honorable mention more than anything else, but our 100th build is from Zombie Apocalypse 100 Days Hardcore video. It's the first video that did extremely well on my channel and kicked off the entire Fixxiverse, which is my interconnected universe that goes through all of my 100 days as well as my hardcore videos. The build itself was more functional than beautiful, but it did work to keep the zombies out. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. Number 99 is the Port Break Quarry from the Realm of Vasten. Yeah, there's a lot of Realm of Vasten coming up. I played on the server for about 5 years. You might notice it has a custom texture pack that evolved over the course of the world, done by our great friend Jermsyboy. This quarry is one of my favorite sort of anti-builds. It's just more of a hole than an actual build, but I think it looks really cool and adds a lot of sort of world building and lore to the world. Then the Realm of Vasten spawn. Yeah, I had to get this in there. It's the first big vanilla build I ever really did. It's our storage building at spawn, and yeah, we had a lot of spruce and cobblestone, and you can see. But look, I think the outline of what kind of builds are to come was there. You just got to look kind of deep to see it. It's occurring to me that there's a lot of firsts in these early videos. I guess that is sort of the nature of Minecraft. You don't have that many materials when you start off a server. This is Unbeatable Beats from the Imperial SMP server. It's the first sort of regular Minecraft Diamonds for Good shop I ever made. Mostly, I think the entrance of it is really cool. Pixel art looks great. Yeah, the build itself, it's fine. And here's the first time our long-term single-player world, Bedrock Survival with Fix, appears. This is the spawn town, the mining district, and I really like it. I did these diorite roofs, and it's the first time I ever built a town of all the almost exact same house. I don't think I'll do it again, but it was a fun little experiment to work out. Also surrounded by custom spruce trees, it really adds a lot. I really enjoy this town. It's a nice place to spawn in this world and sort of get your feet wet before moving on to some of the bigger builds. Back on the Realm of Vasten, this church is really interesting. It was my first foray into building sort of larger scale churches like this, and I like it, although you can see I built it some years ago. The structure to the left of it there is where the sun will be coming down, and when the sun hits the first ender pearl looking thing, that's when services start, and then when the sun sets and hits the bottom one, that's when services end, because that's when the endermen come out. It's the Church of the End after all. This little town on the Realm of Vasten I built with crafting mantis. We just wanted to sort of connect the world together. It's about halfway in between two bigger builds, and we thought, well, there would be just maybe some people living here near the crossroads, and it's an excuse for a wool farm. I think it was a cyan sheep farm, actually. And the idea is, instead of just have one sheep farm that has all your different colors, we would stack 16 different sheep farms throughout the entire world for all the different colors, so you would have an excuse to travel the land. I really enjoy this little build. There's not a lot to it, but it does fill out the world. When you're traveling on the road in between towns and you see, oh, there's a little village here, that's really cool. It really adds the immersion factor of a world. The main lore of Vasten was that the Nether was attacking the overworld, and this portal was the first time that really became part of the world. We put in a Nether portal that spawned just outside the main gates of our capital city of Port Bray, and you can see the aftermath of an attack. The idea is everywhere pigmen back in those days, walked, it would corrupt the earth. So you'd see netherrack, soul sand, all that kind of stuff. That was just sort of the Nether spilling out, corrupting the overworld land. I really enjoyed this tower too. This started as someone else's project who then quit playing and left just a giant big stone box. And rather than just tear it down, I decided to make it into a ruined tower showing the age of a world. Again, age of a world is super important. You want to show something's been around for a long time, add some ruins. Checking in number 91 is the first church I added to my Bedrock single-player world, and I hadn't yet decided what I wanted to do about religion. So what we did is basically we made churches devoted to the fallen. This world was started by people who were sent back in time from a failed spaceship experiment. All my worlds have big lore and storyline. So instead of have a religion per se in this world, we had dedications and tributes to the people who sort of founded the world because they were displaced throughout time. I had a funny idea on Imperial SMP to build shops of stuff that no one would ever really want, like a beetroot farm, which we previously saw, and this one, which is a cobblestone generator store. Yeah, you can just go in here and use a cobblestone generator. I thought it was funny. Now, this one breaks my heart a little bit. This is on Legacy, and it's just a server I've just not been able to find time in my schedule to play on recently, but I love the idea of this base. I want to do a whole Wizard of Oz theme, and this is supposed to be the beginning of the Emerald City. All that copper is going to turn green eventually. Yeah, I am very, very sad I've not been able to get back to this project, but never say never. I plan on making this a stream-only series, and I just haven't been able to stream at all recently, so hopefully soon. If anyone's been asking about Legacy, hopefully soon. In a lot of ways, I felt weird about putting this build this sort of high on the list. It's not a very good build, but I have the cool roofs, and the big thing is this is on my 100 Days Dinosaur Island video, and dinosaurs can totally destroy your house. So I like the idea that I had to actually defend it from mobs that will actively destroy my house. I thought that was kind of fun. That's all I got to say about this one. And this is episode 171 of Simply Magic. I apologize for the video quality. I couldn't get this to load to take more modern footage. So yeah, this was my very first series on YouTube, and it was a bit of a mega base, and you can see from the astounding lack of detail sort of where my building was at. Also, I was using John Smith texture pack back in these old days. What I loved about this particular base was everything I built for Simply Magic, I always built its own house, its own storage area. I didn't tear down stuff or make stuff temporary just to get through the mod pack. Everything had its own place. Like there's a ritual from Blood Magic, and it has its own build. Here's a specific gas summoning spot, and it has its own house. I just think that's a cool way to go. The downside is you end up getting a lot of stuff in a small amount of area, and well, mod packs get pretty laggy after a little while. And checking in at number 86, we're finally getting some more recent buildings. This is the city of Gravenwall, and it's supposed to be a steampunk city. You can see the train that I built with Drama Smith Dreams, and you can see the factory, which I like. It's out of my wheelhouse a little bit, but it's a firework factory, and I just thought it was cool. It was different for me. It was a fun build. In the same city, I decided to build a Netherism shrine. We had three main religions, Church of the End, Church of Man, and Church of the Nether. And this was obviously the Church of the Nether. You can see these people worshipped sort of the enemy. Remember, the Nether is at war with the overworld. This was not a very popular religion, but I do like the build. I wish I could go back and fix it a little bit, but I like it in general, looking at it now under sort of the eyes of 2022, but still, it has some nice things. Now, you'll see in the background of a lot of these, especially Realm of Vasten builds, that there are some amazing builds sort of in the backgrounds that I didn't do. I'm only showing you the builds that I did. This is a Turtle Sanctuary build I did in the city of Celea with my good friend Klautos. We had a blast building this. It has a full Turtle Sanctuary. Like, this is a very snowy town, so we had to build a dome to keep them warm. And then if you go down in, there's turtle breeding area, and I think there's probably an Enderman in a cart, I think. Is he still in there? Yeah, he sure is. He's still in there. Leaving spawn on Vasten, it was the first time I really had to, well, figure out how to sort of transition from one area to the next. And I did it with this guard tower bridge sort of situation. Again, we had a big elevation change here, so I needed to figure out a way to get up without just building stairs that go in a straight line. It kind of works. This was a tough one to sort of figure out where to put because there are some pretty good builds and some builds that I wish I had another crack at. This is my Bedrock single player world again, and I just wanted to show sort of the port area. It's tough to say, well, it's one build because there's a whole bunch of little builds, but with the ships and the way the docks are, I really like how that came together. I love the organic flow of the docks where it's not straight lines. I think that turned out really, really well. I kind of wish in retrospect that I had a little bit more sort of vertical height on them, but all in all, with the custom mountain in the background that sadly never got finished, I think it's a pretty cool build, and that's number 82. This is the first appearance of a rather short-lived series I had. It's one of the only creative series I've ever done on my channel. This was a creative sort of time-lapse build series that I tried to do, and it never really took off, to be honest. I really liked it, kind of, but I'm a survival builder at heart. Everything else you're seeing on the channel outside of this series is purely survival. I took my stab at creative and I did some like sort of tutorial-ish sort of ideas, and yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea. But the build itself, yeah, it's pretty cool. I decided to use Conquest Vanilla Texture Pack on this, and maybe that's part of the reason why it didn't really take off. That's a little bit of a niche thing, but look, I liked it, and that house that's a pretty cool house. And finally, we're to sort of my very favorite series currently going, my hardcore single-player world. I love this world. Bunch of lore segments. We're already 1,200 days in. I'm just about ready to start 1,300-day recording sessions. And yeah, these tiered farms worked out really well. I had a bit of a learning curve when I tried to do farms in 1.18 sort of land generation. You got to do a lot of landscaping, and I think these tiered farms were a perfect solution on how to deal with that. The realm of Vasten, this is, I think, the last thing to show in Spawn Town. Checking in at number 79 is the Travail Inn. There were only about 7 of us playing back in this days whenever the server first started back in Season 1, so each person had their own actual room in the inn. I don't know why I thought that was cool. I guess it is, kind of. There's a good chance that a lot of you don't know this, but I'm a trumpet player. I'm a professional musician. That's like my day job. Excuse my voice. I'm a little under the weather while I'm recording this, if you're wondering why I sound all grovelly. So I thought every world needs an amphitheater, and this should be no exception. So this is in the city of Andio's Rest. It's a hobbit halfling sort of city, and I thought, well, they should have a place where they could do sort of speeches and plays and musicals, complete with a little musician's pit down on the bottom. And it's all under the canopy of these giant trees that we built. It's a very, very, very cool build. A little laggy with all the leaves. In Bastion, we have a habit of doing incredibly huge giant projects, and this one was no exception. This is the Miners Guild, and it has a super beacon down the bottom. Now, to build a super beacon, you have to have a bunch of rules. It has to be suspended down to a certain Y level on chains with lava surrounding it, and it's very, very expensive with all the diamonds and stuff. But what you get is you get an hour of haste that you can take with you and not have to move your beacon all the time when you're mining. It was a cool compromise. This is my old village craft build, and I think this is the coolest idea. I just didn't get to finish it. Unfortunately, the server kind of died before it was done. But yeah, I met some friends on this server that I'm still friends with today. This is my first ever YouTuber server, and I really, really, really like it. I mean, man, there are some cool aspects of this build. Unfortunately, like I say, it didn't get done. But if you like this style, stay tuned to the channel. In my Bedrock world, there is a lot of lore, and one of them is there are futuristic sort of people, modern man, living up on the moon, and they need a way to get down kind of secretly to the medieval kingdom. Well, how they do it is they have this big lava door in a custom cave that's all filled with nether stuff to scare off the locals. They fly their space shuttle right through the lava door and into this beautiful lush cave. I want to say I built this right whenever Minecraft Mojang announced that lush caves were going to be a thing in the Caves and Cliffs update, and I tried to sort of emulate it as best I could from the screenshots that they showed at Minecon. Again, you got to go with what blocks you have available, but I think they turned out really well. I'll be totally honest, I am the worst at PvP ever, pretty much. I don't think that's going to surprise anyone who's been around. I'm just terrible at it, but I like the concept of it. So in the city of Sandrasku, which is a prison city, basically people are thrown in and they are never allowed out ever. An arena was built, and that's where they sort of fight for people's entertainment. I think it's a pretty cool arena. I know arenas in Minecraft are pretty overdone, but I think this one is a little different and pretty cool. Do you remember the days back before data packs? Do you remember them? Yeah, there were some real struggles. So what we wanted to do is have a way to build out of granite, diorite, andesite, red sand, things like that. Not diamonds and stuff, without just totally tearing up the world. So we made a deal where you can trade. And basically you can trade any chest that's completely full of any item for a chest of, again, andesite, clay, diorite, things you would have to either destroy the world or things that are hard to get in huge bulk quantities. So this is the banking clan, and back before data packs, I thought this was an ingenious way to get a lot of that kind of stuff so you can build these mega mansions that otherwise would be nearly impossible to do. This might be the first build of this video that I can say, yeah, okay, this is really cool. This is in the city of Solea on the realm of Vasten, and it is called Path of the Ice Seers. The idea is there are these portals that are far, far underground, and yeah, if you're looking at the size of this was all dug out by hand, every bit of it. This was not a natural cave or natural ravine. So what you do when you look in these portals, you can see through to other dimensions. There was one for Vasten Dimensions, which was kind of a fan server of Vasten that we used to have. One for this Cabin of Tanis that you'll see later in the video. One for Wells Knight's Kingdoms, because Wells was good enough to come in and do several tours of this world. And I just thought it was just a really cool concept, a really cool idea, and I thought it was carried out really, really well. The portals were built here by Chef Boyardee, who's just one of the most brilliant builders I know. It's just great. One of the best ideas, or maybe the singular best idea I ever had, was again in the realm of Vasten. Though everything is connected by road, places are very, very far away. So we have ships, and basically you build one ship and then you build a copy of that ship at your destination. And then through a little bit of command block teleporting, whenever you go onto the ship, you press the button and then you appear on the same ship, but in another city. It's a fast travel idea that I took from basically World of Warcraft and everywhere else, but applying it to Minecraft, I had not ever seen done before, and it worked perfectly. Custom forests are a real pain, but look at what they add. I mean, check out this. I called this a pine forest. I don't know really what it's supposed to necessarily look like. It's just tall, really cool custom trees that you walk, and something that you see when you're traveling between cities. It's something that's not just regular Minecraft terrain. It's just really cool. There's actually a couple little houses buried back in the forest, but I like the build, and it adds a ton to the atmosphere of the place. After nearly 5 years on the server, we decided that it was time to allow personal bases rather than only build all together. So this was our teleport area. So you would build basically a tent in this caravan, and then you'd have your own command block teleport to go to your personal base. Again, we had large biomes. Otherwise, it'd be like an hour of traveling to get almost anywhere. I believe this was the last of the time-lapse creative mode videos that I did, and I like it okay. It's a village transformation. I tried to do something. I'd been watching a lot of Mythical Sausages transformations at that time, and I thought I want to take a stab and just see what I can come up with, again, using the Conquest of Vanilla texture pack. You know, it's all right. I think the church is really cool. I think there are a couple cool aspects. I think there's some things I wish I had ventured a little further outside the box, but, you know, it's the first time I ever did one of these, and I think it turned out all right. From the same series, this one is a lot more up my alley. I like towers, I like big sort of mega builds, and this was supposed to be a starter base, like an ultimate starter base that has all the farms, enchanting, all the stuff that you would need at the beginning of a server, made out of materials that you can fairly easily acquire. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, it's okay. We got some animal pens up there. You know, it's hard to build small whenever you have such grand sort of scheme, but if it's a starter base, it can't be too big. So, okay. Now, speaking of teleporting, we've been talking about that quite a bit. One of the ways that you can repair your tools is go to the end, and the way you go to the end is you go to a Church of the End in every city. Every city has a Church of the End and has a drop right in the front of it. So you walk up to the front, you take what we call the Leap of Faith. Yeah, sorry, Assassin's Creed. And you press the button and you fall down, and then you'll get teleported to the Church of the End, where you can go to the end and repair your tools. Basically, again, just so you don't spend your entire life traveling in this world, this was one of the sort of the hacks that we did to help players build huge and not have to worry about so much of the grind. But it had been some time, and we were due for another Nether invasion. So in Season 2 of the Realm of Vasten, we built in a portal. This happened at the very end of the season, where the Nether had invaded and they attacked, and then I built ruins all up and down, as if you can just see where the zombie pigmen came through the town, just slaughtering everyone in their way. It's a cool build. It leads to basically the crater and the airship that you'll see down the road a little bit in this video. In Vasten, I found this little island that was right along the road, basically, and I thought rather than just build a bridge or some stairs, to do this elevation change, let's build a garrison. I named it after my older son, Harrison. It's called Harrison's Garrison, and a very simple little keep that's basically just used to make something interesting on the road between cities. I needed purple wool for something. I think it might have been the airship. I don't even really remember. But so instead of, again, just dyeing wool, whatever, I built a purple wool hamlet right alongside the road. So this is called Princeton, and just a simple little house surrounded by fields and purple sheep. After years of using one building in the banking clan, we decided to have a separate building for each trade. I think the plan was originally to have villagers to do the trades and stuff, but that never actually happened. But this was the clay palace. Each palace would have only one trade in the banking clan. Again, this predates data packs. This was one I did, the clay palace. I just love how it went into the water, kind of. There's like a drainage sort of thing, and I just think it was really cool. Being clay, I thought clay and water might have something to do with each other, and interesting design, I think. Back when I got my very first patron, I wanted to make sure I did something to recognize, how meaningful that was, how much it meant that someone was willing to actually help me make some videos. So I started this area. It's called Monument to the Fallen. Now there's a lore background. This is where the people went into the Nether to sort of close off the Nether and grind the Nether war to a halt or a standstill. But for me, it meant a lot. I put a statue for each Patreon I had back in those days. And the last build of what I'm calling my it's okay block, the 100 through 60 block here, is the Inkful Tower on Imperial SMP. It was a shop, actually, where I could sell ink, and the idea was I was going to glow squid. It was right after they added glow squid to the game, up in that little bubble, but they suffocated instantly every time. I could never keep them alive. Regardless, underneath there's an ink tower, and it was a fun little build. Add something to the shopping district. Oh, this build would have been much higher up on the list if I got a chance to finish it, and I didn't. Unfortunately, this series and world ended before I had a chance, but the plans were enormous. That's why this one checks in at 59. This is my Bedrock Guardian farm. I drained an ocean monument and put a few pillars up. In Bedrock, Guardians will only spawn on very specific blocks, so you can have a water elevator on those specific blocks that launches them up in the air for the kill chamber. It would have been great, and I was going to go all the way up to build height and make this just a giant icy fortress, and sadly, very sadly, I just never got to finish it. You can see I did do statues. I anticipated Bedrock Survival with Fix being sort of my forever world before the hardcore bug bit me, but well, here we are. One of, I think, the cooler builds I ever did was in my Bedrock single player world. I did this sort of steamboat build. The idea was technology is starting to emerge in this world, and there's a counterforce called the Inquisition or Inquisitors who are trying to block that technology. They want to hold the world in sort of static technology. But, someone came up with a steamboat idea, and yeah, it turned out really cool. I was trying to fill up the dock with some good ideas, and I think I did. Getting back to the hardcore world, my storage building is one of my favorite storage buildings I've ever done. A few years ago, I switched to using barrels over chests because they are not laggy at all, even though they're only half as big. And I really like it. I like this design a lot. It really set up the entire sort of scope and idea and concept for New Hope. And yeah, it was a great starter. It was my starter house in this world, if you can believe it. It's a big one. I love this church. In Realm of Vasten, this is a Church of the End in the city of Celea. It's a very frozen town, obviously, and I just love it. I love every detail about it. I think this is when I really sort of began to detail in a way that I still do currently, and also it has a really nice interior. I think the chandelier up in the top with the colors of purple and green to signify Church of the End. Yeah, the whole thing works. I really like it. In the same city, I built some shipyards. I'd never built shipyards before, but I built these giant dome shipyards with sort of village facades on the sides. I really, really enjoyed this build. So you'd build the ship and then you just roll it right into the docks. It turned out really great. It adds a lot of sort of, life to the city because you can see something in the process of being built. Yeah, this was a fun one, and one that I did very early in this season. So I got some help from Joel Duggan on this one and Callus, I think. I was trying to figure out how to build a steampunk drill, and I had this crazy idea of, well, what if there was a giant helium balloon that actually held the drill up, and then they could just lower it down to the ground, let it drill, and then pull it back up using the balloon? I mean, would it work? No, probably not, but it looks really cool. In the town of Bone Bluffs, we have this palette. Pride Ceratops started this town and picked out the palette. And I really like it. The brick with the prismarine and the white diorite. It's a super cool, and I would have never picked the palette, but it works so well. I loved this little tiny church. It's not big, it's not dramatic, it's just cool. It works really well. One of my favorite 100-day videos I ever did was the 100-day colony edition, which took place in my Bedrock single-player survival world, and I made the vow, even though Bedrock doesn't officially have hardcore, that if I died, I would delete the world. Fortunately, I didn't, and I was able to construct this entire village in merely 100 days, starting from completely scratch. It was really, really fun, and I had hoped to continue this project, and again, time just sort of ran out on me. Continuing to work alongside the roads, I decided to build just a little windmill here and some crop fields. I thought it would look really cool and would be something kind of a point of interest. I just think the shape of this windmill is the best one I ever did, and I think the house is very ramshackle and just cool looking overall. Well, we're finally to the halfway point. Coming in at number 50 is my biggest video. It's my 100 or 200 days mage video. It did unbelievably well on the channel, and the build itself, again, is not great, but what I like is the mod integration. Everything is all connected using only magic mods. It was very, very fun to put together and work out. This was a very, very fun world to play. It's one of my favorite mod packs ever. Back when we were showing Princeton, I could not remember why I need all that purple wool for sure, and yeah, this is why. It was the first airship I ever built, and I think it turned out really, really well. This was the means of travel to White Sands, which is a landlocked kingdom, so we thought, well, you can't have a boat that goes there, so we'll have an airship that goes there. So there's one copy here in Port Bray, and there's one copy of the exact same ship over in White Sands, so it gives the illusion of you sailing between cities. It worked really well, and this airship, I really, really love this one. I really enjoyed this project too. This is the town of Still Point, and it was a Nether invasion point. But before I did that, I took a regular vanilla village and I overhauled it completely. Then I came back in on the last day, the last episode of the mini-series, and I did the Nether invasion point. My friend Chef RD built the awesome Nether portal, which just looks so, so good. And then you can see sort of where the zombie piglins came in and just the tread and how they corrupted the ground. They burnt down trees. The campfire had just been added, I think, when we did this, and you can just see how much it adds to the landscape as a battle-torn area. In the hardcore world, I was stuck with sort of this area. Now, I love this area with mountains surrounding, but the 118 generation has these really nice slopes to get up to the mountain of kind of unusable area. So I built these rather steep tiered farms, and I think they worked really, really, really well. It is super cool to walk through the valley and just look up and you just see farms raising up from the ground, flying right up into the mountain. It's really, really cool. I'll admit one of the things that I'm not actually great at is sort of building in life spots. Like I can build houses and castles and all that kind of stuff, but building in where people are living and functioning, that is not my strength at all. And I was really proud of this one. This is the Bedrock single player world right at Dockside, and you can just see the market stalls. I wasn't, I'm not making something up that's never been done in Minecraft, but I was proud because it's not something that I have done very often, very frequently. The market, the odd shaped houses, the storefronts, the whole thing, it just works really well. It's a very, very immersive part of this world. My most recent modded 100 Days video is Arctic Wasteland and Frozen Planet. I really, really enjoyed that as it further tells the story. You're stuck with just this little shack in the middle of nothing with just ice and snow in every direction, and you build this. It's kind of skyblock, but you build everything out of nothing. It's a very great mod pack called Cuboid Outpost. I can't say enough good things. If you're looking for a good 1.16 mod pack, that's the one. Go check it out. I was mostly proud of this, that I got like every seed and every food in the game. It's all part of the build. The whole thing works together. I love the sheet metal sort of aspect of it, putting campfires for warmth in rooms. The whole thing worked pretty well in my opinion. Back some time ago, I used to promise gold tier Patreons and gold tier YouTube members that I would build them an epic build, and basically that could be a guild or a cathedral, something like that. This is one of those. This is an explorer's guild I built for Cyloncraft, one of my longtime gold tier supporters, and I really enjoy this build a lot and established a style. So then once this is done with a sort of pyramid map room on the top and this little sort of bowed wooden thing, then every city can have an explorer's guild, and then it sort of connects the world. Like, guilds go over national borders in the realm of Vasten. I think it was a cool build with a lot of upside on this one. Oh, this world. Now, this is taken from an old video, so again, excuse the quality. This is the very end of my Direwolf 10.2 series, I think. I decided I wanted to go modern after coming out of Simply Magic, the big medieval world, and I built a modern ocean world here. And this was a really cool build. It got super laggy as I had basically every mod in the game all within these 4 towers. you can see how cool it looks. I wish they still had a copy of the world so I could do a cinematic of it, but you know, here we are. Seeing this one makes me sad. Kings of Conquest was a Conquest Reforged survival server started by I Like to Get Wrecked, good friend, and I invited a bunch of us to come on and play survival Conquest Reforged. I never thought I'd see it happen. It was really, really, really fun, and I just ran out of time to keep playing on the server, unfortunately, but I did build this really cool looking manor house, and yeah, I feel like there's so much more I could have done on this server, but I just don't have enough hours in the day. Now, in my hardcore world, the story is there's a guy from the future who is teleported to this medieval type of planet, and the people were killing each other using like dueling as entertainment, and so he introduced soccer, said, hey, this is a sport that you won't get maimed when you play. So yeah, I built a soccer stadium in medieval city. I thought it was a cool juxtaposition of two different styles, and I think it actually works really well, even though it's a little jarring at first. Before my channel started picking up some steam, I had one video in particular that was doing really well inexplicably. It was called How to Build a Floating Island, Realm of Vasten Season 3, number 36. I know that because it had basically quadrupled the views of any other video I had. And this is the final build. Now, granted, that video was just starting the island, but I really love this build. Having the ice spikes sort of push the mountain up out of the ground and having a crater underneath, the whole bit, I just think it works. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite all-time builds. And yeah, if number 40 is one of my favorite builds, well then you know the next 39 are going to be pretty special to me. This is the Port Break Castle. First castle I ever built ever in Minecraft, and you can tell that if you look real close at it because there's some newbie mistakes, but still, generally, I think it's pretty good. I built it up on a custom mountain with a keep on the inside, enough grounds to have houses within the castle walls, some extensions sort of going out. The whole thing overall is pretty good. It has a really nice skyline. Building in a snowy mountain is probably not something I'll do again because it was really tough to keep all the snow layers from being where I didn't want them to be. But overall, I think the whole thing works really well. And yeah, Castle Port Bray, it's a good one. I rated this build from the hardcore world pretty high because of my ineptness at doing life spots. I built a playground in the back of the school, and I just think that's really cool. It's something, again, I really want to focus on more going forward. So is this rated a little too high? Yeah, it probably is, especially seeing the Port Break Castle just a second ago, but it is a life spot, it is a playground, and I think it's cool. I didn't show it, but the interior of the school is actually quite nice as well. Deep inside the prison city of Sandrasco, I built another Church of the End because as builders, if we're there, we want a chance to go repair our tools and stuff like that. So I built this church. Again, it's this same Gothic style, very ornamented, the whole thing with the purple and green windows in the shape of an ender pearl. The whole bit, it works really well, and I feel like people who were banished to this prison city would still have their religions, whether they were able to escape the prison city or not, right? Here's another life spot that I built. We found this way to have custom sounds as part of the resource pack, and I was able to put in like marketplace sounds and dock sounds in the pack around now, and it just added so much. It was a really interesting part. Again, a really closed, small little area with ice hanging over the whole place, maybe some clothes hanging out to dry, the whole bit. Yeah, this was a really, really fun. It doesn't really have a name. It's in Celea, called like Mini Town or something. I don't know. In the hardcore world, you're actually looking at a guardian farm, believe it or not. That's right. Right underneath the boat is where all the guardians spring up, go into the nether portal, and then appear in a drop zone nether portal situation. That's why the boat is a little bit wider than what I normally would have liked, but it was such a good way to camouflage the farm, I thought it deserved a high ranking.
Oh, Susanna, don't cry for me. We had some good years, so let me be. The world goes on. I sang my song. I gave my own true love for you to see.
I just love this build. It's a dwarven ice farm, and you can see the idea is that these trays get lowered down on the chains, ice gets harvested, filled back up with water, and then they get raised up to turn back into ice again. Of course, Minecraft is not really functional, but the idea of it is really cool. And if you look even further, there's train tracks to actually move the trays off and bring a new tray on, the whole bit. This was a really well thought out build in my opinion. Oh yeah, this is an exciting one. It's my Deceit water ship base. Oh, I loved this base. It was so much fun. And, you know, we only had 7 episodes, I think, of Deceit to build this. So you only get to build one base and you got to build it kind of quick and you can't die while you're building it or you're out of the game. So yeah, it was a whole thing, but I think this build turned in really well. I think everyone really enjoyed it being on the server, and it was right at spawn, so it was in the backdrop of everyone's videos. Deceit, my most underrated series on the entire channel. If you're looking for one thing to watch on my channel, watch Deceit. You're gonna love it.
Son of America, a Pennsylvania child. They say the day I was born was the 4th day of July.
One of my favorite of all of my 100 Days videos is 100 Days Magic Edition. It follows the mage Bob on his banishment, where he is sent to a skyblock world where only Britannia works. So he has to learn a brand new form of magic of life and of flowers and of energy and all that kind of stuff. It was very fun. I've always wanted to play Garden of Glass and just never found an excuse or time to play it. And digging into sort of the depths of Britannia in only 100 days of Minecraft was really, really fun. Additionally, of course, me being me, I end up building quite a base here as Skyblock instead of just doing the mods, but it was very, very fun. And we go right from one of my favorite 100 Days videos to my absolute favorite 100 and 200 Days Bunker Edition. I loved this world so much. In fact, I loved it so much that the Stoneblock 3 may be making an appearance on the channel whenever it's ready. This is so much fun. I built a 70s style bunker, all underground, using nothing but my fists to break stone. Something about living all underground is just fun for me. I've always been a bit of a cave dweller in my own house, and this was sort of a dream come true. I loved this pack. I loved the videos, the whole bit. And then we're going back to the time-lapse world to check out this orc starter base I built. I found this little, I don't know, weird sort of terrain gen. I thought, I got to build something here. And so, again, this is one of the few creative builds in my entire history of Minecraft. And I came up with this style semi-World of Warcraft almost inspired thing, and it works pretty well. You know, again, the creative thing it's just not my cup of tea, but I tried. As we move into the top 30, we're going to be getting more and more epic. This is my palace in the city of White Sands in the realm of Vasten. I loved this palace. It was super fun. I tried to not detail it too much, but just really make those blue spires stand out. And I think I pulled it off pretty well. The top dome is actually the throne room for the 3 brothers who rule over this land. I think this is my first ongoing project right now, the Arcane Reception Coil from the hardcore world. Is this a little high for what it is currently? Yeah, probably, but it's not high for what it's going to be. This is going to be probably my most epic build I've ever done. You just can't see it yet because most of it's in my head. But I love this build. I love the direction it's going, and oh man, you are gonna love the final outcome in the hardcore survival world. Oh yeah. This might be my most recent project on the video, and this is a church I built in the hardcore world. The church itself is fine, but I think just the general landscape and aesthetic of the whole bit is kind of why I put it as high as I did. I really love the idea of the copper roofs as well as the deep slate sort of gothic accents up the top along with the black stone down the bottom. It's really, really cool. This glass texture is inspired by Jermsyboy's glass texture for pink stained glass that he made for us. And the inside is done, which is kind of rare for me these days. But yeah, the whole build itself, I'm a big fan of this. I'm a bigger fan of what it's going to be for the lore and the storyline in the future. On Imperial SMP, and I am so sad that I didn't get to finish this build. But yeah, my time on that server sort of came to an end and it wasn't done, but this was going to be so epic and awesome. If you notice some similarities between this and the Arcane Reception Coil from my hardcore world, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely sort of making up for not finishing this with the Arcane Reception Coil, but this was going to be so awesome. Included by Germ was going to build underneath of it in the shadow of it. Oh man, watching this, I got some remorse about not finishing this build. I challenged myself in the Bedrock single player world to build a diagonal keep. That's right, I just want to put the whole thing exactly on a diagonal. I've never done anything like it before, and it pulled off pretty well. Man, I wish we'd replay mod in Bedrock right now. But yeah, the whole thing, if you see it live, you see sort of the way the lines work because it's all diagonal. It really works pretty well. I really enjoy it. And yeah, it's a great thing for the sky print, especially hovering over the docks. In the Hobbit city of Endur's Rest, I built these Hobbit holes in here, and I just think they came off really well. My friend Callus was building on one side of the street, and I was building the other, and Callus is an absolute beastly builder, so it was really inspiration to step up my game, and I think I did. I mean, Callus's houses are the best ever, but I held up okay. Back in the Bedrock world, I had been watching a lot of Tuscan-inspired villages, and I thought, hey, I want to take my own stab at this style, and I think it turned out okay. Built this town centered all around the rose trade. So everything about it is all sort of red and rosy and very lush and all that kind of stuff. With some custom cliffs, a lot of custom trees all over the place, all these sort of hanging oak trees. Tried to sort of do a weeping willow sort of design and came up okay. But the house design itself, I didn't reinvent the wheel here. I'm not making anything up, but I think they turned out really well. And as a whole, when you put them all together, it's a really immersive section of my world. Taking a look back at the steampunk style in Gravenwall, I built this floating farm, and the idea was there's no water here. It had been drained by witches in a war. So this floating farm had to fly over, get some water, fill up that tank, that reservoir up in the top, and then distribute it to the rings that had all the crops in it. And then they would fly the food right to where the people are. Unnecessary? Yeah, probably, but very steampunky for sure, right? I mean, come on, man. How much more steampunky can you get for a farm? I like it a lot. We started doing in Vasten after some years of playing together a 1 week build competition. So basically we would pick a theme and then you'd have 1 week. We'd all build our own builds and then we would live stream a viewer vote on which won. And this one didn't win. Actually, I was beat out, but I really loved it. I love this build so much. It's a witch alchemy area and had a bunch of lore to back it up and all that kind of stuff. But you can just see all the poisons and potions flowing out of this thing. I mean, man, looking at this, how didn't this win? It's so good. Full interiors, the whole thing, because we had judging and the whole bit. Oh man, yeah, I love this build. I love this build. And at number 20, my Dominion Chisel and Bits mini castle, because I'm an inchling in Dominion. If you're missing that series, you're missing out. I'm building a mini village, mini castle, mini cliffs, the whole bit, pixel by pixel. I love this build. I love the server. I love my friends, the whole bit. I am super psyched about everything that's going on with Dominion SMP. So yeah, this build was really fun. It was fun to build, try to build sort of to my scale as being this tiny little dude, and yeah, come up with some interesting new building techniques. Cabin of Tanis is kind of a hard one to explain, to be honest. It's just a little cabin on top of a custom mountain just outside this little village. Now, I made the village abandoned and looked haunted. It looked like it had been through some worse times because the mystery is if you walk in this cabin during the day, nothing. It's a regular cabin. But if you walk into it at nighttime, then stuff happens. And if you walk through the final door instead of outside, you are transferred to a magical hallway that seemingly has no end. Some doors go up to other places, some just open into the void. Some have mysterious parkour courses and things. This is a truly awesome build. One of the things that we did with the texture pack is we made black wool be completely black, so you could really simulate a void, because at that time I don't think concrete was in the game yet and there wasn't really a pure black. But if you follow Tanis the whole way to the end, if you find the right door, and if you go through the entire lengthy parkour map, you'll find everything from abandoned houses to complete void to the end. Well, simulated the end, simulated the Nether, the whole thing. And if you keep following it on and on and on, eventually you'll get to our only mending villager in this world. Now, later on, as seasons went on, we ended up getting more mending villagers. But at the time, we had only found one near spawn, and this was the entire map I did. So you have to follow this map through to its conclusion to get mending. But even after you get mending from Earl Tanis, our famous villager here, even then it's not over, because when you exit the cabin, you can be transported to one of 4 different matching cabins scattered throughout the world. Some are incredibly far away, some are very close, and it's all completely random. It's one of my favorite builds ever, even though there's not that much to the build, quote unquote. The whole concept of it, the whole bit, I love it. I love it so much. To be honest, number 18 is probably a little high for an unfinished build, but I think the concept is so cool that I had to put it here. This is my Bedrock Survival with Fix moon base. In the end, I had planned on putting an enormous moon base, sort of all clustered together and very full and all that kind of stuff. And we even had leap boosts and slow falling command blocks, so everything was very felt moon-like and the whole thing. And yeah, I'm sad that this one never got done, but with the lore storyline behind it and everything that went all in with the moon base, I felt like it ranked pretty high. Maybe I'm a little biased on this one. I set out to build what are these blue flowers called? Whatever, they only grow in swamps. So I needed to farm for those, and I thought, hey, let's just go ahead and make a poison potato farm, lore-wise, you know? And so I built this thing, and I just end up falling in love with the shape of it. I just felt like it was a really cool build, and comes in shockingly high in the top 100.
The wagon bumped noisily down the road. "How much further, Pa?" The old man looked at the boy, smiling. "It's a long journey, Joam. Longer each time you ask."
Okay, I'll admit this is a kind of weird one to put as high as 16, but I am very proud of this video, and it never did great on YouTube. I wrote a short story based in the realm of Vasten that explains the entire Nether war, the magic system, the whole thing, and I complete it with some voice acting, sound effects, the whole thing. It's basically an audiobook with some unrelated cinematics just for video purposes. Check it out. I'm going to link it in the description. If you want 75 minutes of, I feel, A+ entertainment, go check it out. I love this build. It's one of my favorite builds. Back in the olden days, diorite was not looked upon very kindly. I think that's starting to change a little bit, but I have always liked it. I've always liked it quite a lot. I like the texture, and I love white bricks for sure. So I built Hellheim out of primarily diorite, and I love this build. It's basically a witch farm is what it is. In the very center of the tower, you can see that there is a platform. Right underneath is where a witch hut used to be, and that has been carved out and turned into an automated witch hut. But on top of it is all the lore. So the witch is summoned out of it, and there's a whole bunch of lore where advanced humans were made by a fallen elf here, and you can find out the whole backstory if you watch the Vasten series there. But these custom witch huts on the ground were really cool. These were sort of the followers of the fallen elf that became sort of insane witches, and that's why witches attack you in Vasten. There's lore behind all the sort of Minecraft mechanics. I love this build. I love it so much. I built this entire base as a thank you and a tribute to a very good friend, Cosmic Dancer. She was so generous whenever my channel was just getting off the ground, and I will never forget it. I cannot say thank you enough. So I built this just for her. She loves flowers, so I thought what would be cool is find a really desolate spot that had been basically ruined, and then build a house of someone who is making it their mission to regrow the land. And you can see there's hanging flower fields where everything's being cultivated and then slowly replanted as nature begins to retake over the desolate, ruined, fire-stained ground. I think it's a really cool build. It's funny, I'll admit, when I came here, I never thought the statue was going to get into even the top 50, let alone the top 13, but honestly, I ended up really liking it. So there's a statue here, and I originally tried to do an organic shape and then thought, oh wait, no, it should look like a villager because that will explain why villagers look the way they do. And the statue is thrusting its staff deep into the ground. If you follow it down underground, you're gonna come to, that's right, a church at the end, where the statue has pierced the ground, opening up a portal to, well, the end temple again, because that is how we travel around to repair tools in the realm of Vasten. This is an all-time favorite build. I love how the statue on the surface connects to an underground church, but wait, that's not all. If you go out the doors of the cathedral, you find a completely man-made dugout ravine. It is absolutely enormous, just filled with basically an underground city within this ravine. It goes all the way up to the surface. It's a crazy build. I can't believe we pulled this off. Okay, if you like lore, I'm going to get through this very quickly. There was a battle in the ancient city of Talatol, and an elf king saw that they were going to lose against the Nether. So he cast a spell called the Blight, and basically once it's cast, it can never go away. It can only be contained. It killed everyone. It killed all of the Nether forces, but also his remaining troops as well. He thought that they were gone forever, but in fact, they actually didn't. They were teleported. The crater and everything, the castle that was where the crater is now, all of that was teleported to the end. The ancient Blight remains there to this day and is controlled by these pylons using magic to keep it from exploding all over the land. In the city of Celea, we built a giant, enormous tree that was sort of the centerpiece of the place. That was done by Joel Duggan started it, Cyloncraft, and a few other people, I think, finished it. But I built a castle that surrounded it. It was always part of the plan. We didn't get to it for a long time, but eventually it came back. You can see by the use of gradient and a little bit more advanced building techniques, I had matured a little bit as a builder since the days of Celea, but this castle just turned out great. It's very, very small. If you're actually in the inside, some of the walls are only like 5 blocks wide on the inside, but it just pulls off. It's such a unique look for a castle. And yeah, Jermsyboy actually laid out the footprint. I didn't do that, so I had to sort of finish a build that someone else started, which can be a challenge. But for some reason, this one, it was pretty easy. I really enjoyed doing this build a lot. It would take a lot for an unfinished build to crack the top 10, but I think New Talatol qualifies. I love this so much. This is built in the void. It's built in between the end island and the other islands. It's literally every single block was placed by hand, and I love it. It's actually an ender. If you look at this giant circle in the middle, that's the ender, and everything else is where the elves live. The elves don't exist in the overworld anymore. They had all left, and where did they go? We didn't know for years, and then eventually we found that they went to the end, and that's where they live. And look at this city. Oh man, I wish we had finished this. Right from the dark and dreary end, right to the bright and sunny Sandrasku, the castle of Sandrasku. For a long time in Vasten, it was the mob farm. So inside this entire castle is an elevated mob farm. That means every single block had to be mob-proofed. Oh, that was fun. But yeah, it's done, and I love this castle. It's a prison city, and it's ruled with an iron hand by one of the prisoners who just took the throne. This was a really, really fun build to put together and took a very, very long time, but worth it. Oh man, I love it. The Bedrock single-player survival castle is one of my all-time favorites. Just the way it flows. It's up on hills, but it's surrounded by mountains, custom mountains that are, yeah. I mean, this was a great build. It was so much fun to do. A lot of the castle is actually my storage building. Again, expecting to live there forever. The way the town nestles right up to the castle on the cliffs. I mean, the whole thing just works. Yeah, this makes me sad about leaving this world. Honestly, very sad. I'm gonna cry a little bit right now. I love this build. I love this castle. I love this world. This was another Realm of Vasten build-off. The theme was nature. Now, we had basically all the farms and all the materials you could possibly need, so this was just about grind, and I grind, and I grind the entire way. I really wanted to win. I didn't win the alchemy tower, and I wanted to win the nature theme, and I did. This was the winning build of that. It was a Jack and the Beanstalk themed build, and I just had such a fun time with it. I mean, everything from the floating balloons that sort of go up, and there's some lore there, to the little baubles that have different fish in it, and the whole thing. It's so cool in nature and goes the whole way to the old build height. And yeah, This was a really fun build to put together. To see it stretching up when you're walking along the road, I also placed this right in between two cities, so if you're just walking, you might get blindsided by, oh, there's a beanstalk that stretches up, 200 blocks up in the air. It's a cool one. It's really cool to see in world. I don't think video does this one justice. For the same build to make it twice in this video says something about how much I love this bunker. This is the 200 days version, so by doubling my amount of time here, I was able to build a ton of new stuff. A lot of it doesn't translate in a little overview video like this because a lot of it's very mod heavy and everything, but just the way everything worked, everything was automated. I mean, truly, I love this world. I love the lore behind it. I love all the auto crafting and the whole thing. I mean, we went all in on automation and it was really, really fun. Again, hurry and finish Stone Block 3 because I want to play it. My diorite, granite, and andesite castle from the Bedrock single-player world is one of my all-time favorite builds. It's actually an iron farm because in Bedrock, you can't have a single villager station within 100 blocks or it unsinks the villagers. Yeah, that's a fun mechanic. Look, I love this build. I built on the White Cliffs. I call it the White Cliffs of Dover, inspired, because I basically retextured endstone to be white so I could use it in diorite and concrete powder as a variant. And I put it look how cool this looks. It's just such a cool build. I love it. It just looks magical. It's very inspired by Beauty and the Beast, as my kids were watching a ton of the Beauty and the Beast cartoon. I'm talking 2 or 3 times a day back then, and I thought, well, I should just try to build a Beauty and the Beast inspired castle, and I think I did. I really love it. This is the end temple in the realm of Vasten, and probably my biggest project up until fairly recently. This was absolutely huge. Remember all those Church of the Ends that we've seen so far in the video? Well, this is where they take you. They take you right up to the top, and then you do the leap of faith down the entire way, straight down into an end portal. This build is so unbelievably epic. It went up to the old build height from a swamp, which means that's ocean level of like Y62. And man, it was so difficult to build because the entire thing is completely symmetrical. Since then, I have sworn off symmetry like ever again. but at the time that I did this, it was endless ender pearling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to double check things and do counting and all that stuff. But here, I'm just gonna be quiet and let you watch the leap of faith. This is what you do to get to the end in the realm of Bastion. I'll be really honest, after editing that together, I'm not really sure how that ended as number 4, but regardless, here we go, top 3. I've always found building in collaborations to be challenging because I have a vision in my head how I want things to be. Well, Callus and I decided to build this section of Gravenwall together, where I would put something down and then without talking to him at all, he would put down literally anything he wanted. We built houses that were stacked on top of each other, right next to each other, over, under, in between. It was the coolest and one of the best Minecraft experiences I have ever had. I love this section of the city so much. I've always been drawn to epic projects, and long before Caves and Cliffs was announced, I decided I was going to build a custom mountain, and I did. And it is absolutely epically huge. It has changed everything about Bedrock survival with Fix world. I mean, when you look around and you're in the footprint of this, and one of the things I love about Bedrock is you can render like 91 chunks, which is astronomically farther than Java. And so you can see this mountain from just about anywhere in the world. It changed everything. Man, I love this mountain. If you've been around the channel for a while, you are not going to be surprised by my #1 all-time favorite build. It is my player base in the realm of Vasten, in the end, connected to the end city, but kind of its own thing, the castle of New Talatal. Oh, I love this build. I mean, this is such an amazing build. Almost every room in the castle has something in it, either functional or just storage or aesthetic or whatever, and it's everything. I mean, I have a fake Nether within the floating island so that the Elven scientists can study their opponents, the evil Nether zombie piglin. I have all these custom farms and things set up floating. I mean, truly, it is one of the most, I think, sensational builds I have ever done. Watching the replay footage of this, whenever I put this video together, I was just thinking, like, why have I not built a castle yet in my hardcore world? That means I'm feeling the urge. It's coming. I want to build a castle similar, different, but similar to this in that world, and that's going to be one of my upcoming projects. But that's going to do it. If you enjoyed the video, if there's anything you feel I egregiously misplaced in its ranking, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know. Tell me what your favorite build is. Let me know. Talk to me in the comments. I can't wait to read them all. Thank you for spending a big part of your day with me, and I'll see you all next time.